My name is Christoph Wiedner, and I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar on the new Oxygen 6.4 update. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage you all to scan the QR code on screen so that you can be connected with our social media pages so you're always up to date on the latest and greatest on what's happening within the company. I'd also like to inform you that any questions you may have can be asked in the tool on the left-hand side of your screen under the speech bubble. And we also have the oxygen measurement software and the product guide brochures that are available for download within the Files tab on the same tool. Finally, if you could stick around after the webinar ends, there'll be a slight survey so that you can let us know how the company is doing. With that being said, we can jump in. With the release of the Oxygen 6.4 update, there's a lot of new features that are very, very useful, very practical, and user-friendly that we'll go through within the presentation, such as the modifications of software, calculations in dmd-files, the tape sensor plugin, the resolver plugin, Sensorless rotor angle and DQ analysis, new trigger options with the absolute trigger and the signal preview being among the main ones, saturation display, as well as a couple of miscellaneous and important bug fixes within this update. With that being said, there's one more announcement that will come from our CEO Christoph Wiedner. So with that being said, let's see what he has to say.
Hi, my name is Christoph Wiedner. I am the CEO of DEWETRON Group. A very warm welcome to our first webinar in 2023. The topic of the very first webinar this year is Oxygen 6.4, including a lot of new functionalities and features, for example, tape sensor plugin, resolver plugin, and DQ analysis. As we already did in the past, we also have planned 4 releases this year. So you can expect 4 releases with a lot of new functionalities of oxygen measurement software. Besides software, we're already working on new hardware. The most interesting one will be launched in summer this year. So follow us on our social media channels or visit us on our exhibitions and shows. For example, in North America, we are attending the Automotive Testing Expo and the Motor and Drive System Conference. So follow us on social media, get the latest updates of our oxygen measurement software, of our new hardware products. So very warm welcome to our first webinar. Have fun and enjoy it.
Hey, good words from a good man. All right, moving on. The first feature with the modifications in the DMD files. With this new functionality, you have the possibility to edit settings of the software channels in DMD files. The function must be activated once after opening the DMD file, and the edit button is right here on the channel list at the bottom right, where you would add the new features or add a power group. Right there is like where you can edit. All the existing channels and calculations created with the plus button can be edited if source channels are stored. Subsequent dependencies will be respected. If source channel is not available, settings are locked. The only thing that you will not be able to do is name or scale any of the existing hardware channels. This is just for anything that was added with the plus button. So like statistic channels, formula channels, simulated channels, and the like. With this, the batch processing is supported, and the options to save the changes are as follow. If we go over to the channel list, you can see under the settings that when you go to file history, after hitting the edit button, you go over here and there's a file history button that you can revert the changes. Oh yeah, it's right here. File history settings, apply the changes or keep the original or revert the changes back. The next new update feature is the tape sensor plugin. With the tape sensor plugin, it's used for calculating the mechanical speed and angle. Within the tape sensor, there are gaps as seen in the picture to help with the count. The gaps will be compensated, And please note that this is an additional feature and requires a dedicated license, with the license option being written as below. The tape sensor plugin, you have to select event count channel, add tape sensor plugin. With the tape sensor settings and channels, the pulses per rotation are at 0, which is automatic. It's the default. No pulse per rotation specification necessary per default. The pulse per rotation count will be calculated as a channel and can be manually fixed by the user. This is all very straightforward and easy to use. If you were to go in, as it says right here, you will go to the plus, select the event channel. You can add the tape sensor here, which will add over here, and the pulses per rotation, as stated, is 0, which is automatic by default. The tape sensor plugin, for smoothing, you can move the average filter speed without delay, with the filter length going from 1 to 51, as seen under the Properties tab. And here is a clear indication of what the smoothing would look like after increasing the filter length. For this example, k equals 5, and you can see the green line is a lot smoother than if it was not smoothed out. For the resolver plugin, the calculations for the angles and the speed. Supported resolvers are modulated inputs with excitation, envelope detection done in software, and the demodulated inputs with the envelope detection being done by the electronics. This is also another optional feature and requires a dedicated license. In this example, you can see here that we have the 3 different sine waves going on. And if you slide over to the channel list and go to the resolver settings, it shows you that the 3 inputs are the sine, cosine, and the excitation. With these 3 being populated, it tells you the status and what mode it is in. So it's in the demodulating mode. If you wanted to be in the modulating mode, you would not populate the input channel for the excitation. As we continue on with the resolver plugin, like I had shown the example, you choose 3 analog channels for the sine, cosine, excitation. Alternatively, you can choose 2 analog channels for the sine envelope and the cosine envelope. That would be the modulating mode. To add the resolver plugin, you go over to where the same area where you would add the tape sensor, but instead of choosing that, you choose the resolver. And for the resolver settings, the 3 channel settings set for the resolver typical demodulating mode, excitation is necessary, which is the last one where it's populated. If you wanted to go into demodulating, you would not populate the input channel for the excitation, and it would let you know that it's using the demodulated sine and cosine input channels. Here's the same examples that were previously seen on the other slide, but just in a picture format. For the next feature, the sensorless DQ and rotor angle, the power group option in DQ analysis, you have to enable the DQ without mechanical angle and specify the stator resistance in ohms, specify the inductance in millihenries. Angle offset is not needed for correct resistance and inductor values. The calculation assumes electric and magnetic symmetry, and please note that this is also another optional feature and requires a dedicated license. That being said, another example of the DQ analysis right here. Get to this. Power group settings right here. You have to go to the settings of your power group, click over onto the DQ, enable it without the mechanical angle, and these will be filled and populated. The next exciting new feature we have is the new trigger options. With this, you have the absolute time trigger, which allows you to define an absolute start time The optional trigger interval to reactivate an event can be set. An optional active for time can be set to deactivate event after a defined time. Oxygen time is used as time reference. In this illustration, you can see under the time tab of the triggers, you can have the first trigger time, which you can set a specific time and date to start the recording. So if you happen to be away or it's in an area you can't get to, but it's already been installed, but you put this trigger beforehand, it will start the recording during the test at that specified time, with the trigger intervals saying that like you'll start recording every 30 minutes, and within the active time, it'll be active for a minute, and then another 30 minutes, it'll start another 1 minute recording as specified by the next trigger times right here on the bottom. With the signal preview, for level high and low, a window in and out conditions, you can see your preview here, and with the specified thresholds, you can see whether it will, like within the given time, it will be within the parameters or out. If it ends up being outside of the parameters at any given time, the line will turn red after passing that threshold. With the saturation display, the possibility to visualize the channel saturation and as well as the new display value saturation for digital, analog, and bar meter and indicator. The default color scheme is green, yellow, and red to let you know where you fall within the parameters, with the possibility to manually reset values of channels only in the actual instrument, as seen in the illustration. You can reset automatically at acquisition restart, and saturation available in live and recorded mode, as well as via Skippy with the Skippy commands listed over here on screen. An example of seeing this in action, we have our actual measurements going on right now. We go over to properties and change the format, change the display value from actual to saturation, and it will let you know the averages and where you fall within your measurement. Saturation, and we're all within good levels. Moving on with the miscellaneous features, we have the excitation on and off switch, which is available in voltage and current mode for all Trion boards. It's not available for bridge, IEPE, and etc. mode, just voltage and just current. You can avoid sensor malfunctions during application due to wrong wiring or excitation settings. So this is a very valuable addition to Oxygen, and it can also be enabled or on and off with Skippy commands as listed below. With the next feature on the list being the control output channel instrument in replay mode. This was already a specified feature within an earlier release, but now you're able to do this via Skippy with these commands. You can start, pause, and stop the recording via Skippy, as well as check the state of it with the given command as well. Another cool feature that's been added is the Ethernet receiver, which now has support for IPv6 addresses. The old XML files are still compatible, and data packets for IPv6 are the same as for IPv4. Batch processing changes on reporting pages are now respected too, and max measurement time in evaluation mode is limited to 30 seconds. Arming triggered recording over XCP is supported. With some of the new features and bug fixes, we also have the Trion 18X multi with the possibility to compensate filter delay of IIR filters with the channel prop and channel ID on and off. Higher sensor excitation power for voltage excitation with the old specifications being listed here with the new updated specifications. And as for at DEWETRON, we're always looking at the future. So with this being said, now that Oxygen 6.4 is out, we're already working on Oxygen 6.5 with the things to look forward to are with the modal test plugin for Oxygen, extensions to power calculations with fallback sync channels, and more degrees of freedom for rolling computations. a start with real-time data output concept, usability topics, and a lot more, so stay tuned. Again, my name is Christoph Wiedner, and I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar on the release of Oxygen 6.4. I'd also like to encourage you all to please check out our social media pages, stay up to date, see what there is to be excited about, look forward to, and such, see what we're always up to. As well as after this webinar ends, we will have a survey for you to fill out to let us know how we're doing as a company, which I would appreciate if you would take the time to fill that out. The webinar will be on YouTube within the coming days after its initial release. And again, I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar. Questions will be answered 24 hours after the webinar ends. So if you have those, you will and can expect an answer following shortly afterwards. All right. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm signing off. Bye now.